I was confused throughout the interview if that lady likes me or not. Like there were no expressions on the face. No expressions, and all she was doing was just making notes. I was like, okay, do they not like me? Because generally people tend to make an eye contact, is what I was told. They'll talk to you as like a conversation interview. So, like I am an engineer who completed electronics and communication engineering from Thapar. So, post that I realized engineering is not my calling. So I moved to finance, and I worked with JP Morgan CRG department for almost 2 years. In fact, I interned with them as well. And post that, I wanted to move to a more front end role and a role which has more focus on the Indian healthcare ecosystem, basically. That's when I joined HealthPod. So I work with the investment team of HealthPod. HealthPod is in health tech and healthcare focused fund that invests only in India. And the idea is just to improve accessibility, affordability, and quality of healthcare services in India. So here I have actively networked with founders of various healthcare and health tech startups of India and understood how they are solving for the challenges, Indian healthcare challenges. And while at HealthPod, I have worked end-to-end on almost 3 deals, out of which 2 have been public. Like one of them is a chronic disease management player, that is Beto, and the other one is AI-led GMAT platform. So I think my experience has allowed me to, have a deep knowledge about how Indian healthcare ecosystem works. So while I come from an engineering background and I do have a network there, I think, but a network in finance is something that I do not have. Like randomly, I think one trigger was I was talking to this friend and he was talking about my college undergrad friends are here. So I can connect with them from these companies. And mostly I've realized the major network that my colleagues or my seniors have are from their undergrad or postgrad batches. So I realized how most of my friends are engineers and none of them is in finance. So building network was pretty important. While I do attend like conferences or talk to people on LinkedIn, I still think it's not a close-knit network, no matter how much effort I put in. It comes from a very professional POV, like I'm attending a conference, they're pitching a startup to me. So there's no personal equation per se where I can, leverage it. And secondly, I also think that my exposure to people in Fin, well, that has been amazing and it has been amazing pedigree. There's lack of diversity if I look at it. Like I know only people who are either engineers or only people who work in funds. That these are the only 2 networks I have. And one drawback, I think one reason why it is also so is while I was working with JPM, COVID hit. So like I worked from home for 2 years. So my network became super limited. No matter how many team bonding exercises existed, like it was difficult to network with 200 people, which generally is the case. Like if I go to office now, everybody is friends with everybody. The environment is super collaborative. So that lack of diversity in my network is one thing that really triggered me. And other than that, MBA is something I really wanted to pursue. Like no matter what, I wanted to do a postgrad anyways. So I realize now that I'm at a good point in my career and I've had a good learning as well. Now is the time where I can take the 2 years off. But I am nervous about it, like not earning money, not working. So I don't know how it will pan out. But yeah, this is what I wanted. Regarding my mentorship journey, touchwood, I had very good mentors like during both these stages. So while writing essays, I think one thing that I really liked with my mentorship with Ankur, he was a part of the system and he came out of that system. So he knew the intricacies and ins and outs. For example, in one college, he's like, okay, that college does not want to hear this. That college wants to hear this. Write about why, because they want to know more about why and not about X. And like those are the kind of things that I really liked. But initially, I think the most difficult part was the brainstorming thing where I had to figure out, okay, what are my short-term goals? What are my long-term goals? So I'm just saying goals, but it was a lot of introspection in both my application cycles. And this is something I really did not expect, the level of introspection that it took me. Even if you ask me about my weakness, like giving an interview casually is something else, but giving it for MBA, I had to back it up with professional examples. Okay, this is what I did and this is what I did not. So that brainstorming was the biggest step that I needed to take and the step that took the longest time as well. For example, Ankur, I had like 2 conversations with Ankur, 4 to 5 hours long. I never thought that somebody will, talk to me for 4 to 5 hours just to understand my story. But like he took out the time, and then whenever there was a prompt, he was there. Ki, okay, you mentioned that. Why don't you mention it here? Like I really liked that kind of interaction. So that biggest step is the brainstorming, and it is one of the nicest also. Like you get to know, okay, this is where I lag, this is where I am strong, etc., etc. But once you do it, I think uske baad the first draft of essay is another big step. Like the first essay that you write, that is the one that takes the most effort, is what I felt, because I am just polishing everything that I'm thinking in a very good way with good vocabulary. But once you do first essay, rest was like a breeze, because the prompts were almost similar. My story was consistent. There were no changes in my story. But brainstorming and the first essay were like the most difficult parts for me. I think, firstly, the most interesting interview I had was with the Haas alum only. So, very interactive guy, like very responsive, very. Like if I am telling you X thing, he was responding to X, and then if I tell you Y, he was responding to Y. I had a very different experience with Tepper though. I was confused throughout the interview if that lady likes me or not. Like there were no expressions on the face. No expressions, and all she was doing was just making notes. I was like, okay, do they not like me? Because generally people tend to make an eye contact, is what I was told. They'll talk to you as like a conversation interview. While I felt my answers were spot on, there was like zero eye contact and like zero, okay, nice, thank you, nothing. Okay, next question. Okay, next question. So like I had a very different experience with Tepper, and I was talking to an alum and she was mentioning how most of the students had a bad experience while interviewing for Tepper, and they still got an admit. That is one thing. But with Haas, it was a really interactive interview. So what I've realized is interviews are very conversational, very interactive. You just need to have enough introspection about yourself and very basic questions. And one thumb rule is why X college. Just a very good answer and a very personalized answer to why X college. I prepped that for all the respective schools, and I had elements where I put in whatever those information, whatever alums had told me, no matter how insignificant it was. Like just name dropping. I was talking to X and she mentioned Y, and I really liked it. So just name dropping. So that also was really nice. In fact, when I answered the question like why Haas, that guy was like, okay, now my follow-up questions were based on this, but you have answered all of it, so I do not have any full follow-up question. Let's jump into behavioral questions. Right. So like very nice interview experience with Haas, okay with Tepper, but I think the intent is just smile through it. And somebody told me is just have a glass of water by your side, and whenever you're nervous, just say, can I have water? And then you have 5 seconds to think about your answer. So like that is one thing that has stayed with me, and I think really helped me. Honestly, I think interview prep is not much different from the essay prep. Once you write essays, like most of the things you've already thought them through and you already have answer to it, is what I realized. Other than that, I leveraged that interview PDF that was sent to me by Crystal. I had answer to almost everything mapped out on that PDF, like in one bullet or something. And uske alawa, I really focused on star format for every answer. Like I prepped star format for like 7 or 8 questions so that I'm really comfortable when thinking about it on the spot. And lastly, I was an avid reader of GMAT Club and Reddit. Like who I was interviewing, I was like, what did you? Everybody tends to post something. So like I would see GMAT Club or Reddit or any online portal. For example, when I interviewed for one of the schools, I searched XYZ interview questions and there were 7 questions and I was asked 4 or 5 out of the 7 questions because people tend to update them very regularly. So it's very helpful. And that is why I also scheduled my interviews neither too early nor too late, in the middle, so that I have some questions that people will post online. So I think, first of all, what is the culture? That is really important. Okay. And you can find it only after you talk to alums and, talk to current students. Other than culture, I think location also plays a really important role. Like currently I'm in investing. While I understand for an international student, investing is difficult to get into, I think the best opportunity that I have to get into it is through Haas only. Like there's no better opportunity. So like whatever 5-10% chances are there, that location will enable me to leverage that opportunity. If at all I am like, okay, no, I want to continue with investing. Other than that, I think I really gave a lot of importance to employment report also. Like what are the companies hiring and which companies are hiring international candidates. So let's say there was this one school in which Microsoft was hiring but not hiring international candidates. But in another school, Microsoft is hiring and hiring international candidates. So like if scholarship was not a difference, then I would like to see that if my desired companies are hiring international candidates in that school. While I understand you can always, it's an open policy and you can always leverage your network, I think if I have to choose, this is something that will take a priority. That is the first component for me personally, like what kind of scholarship I am getting and how is it affecting my finances. But I think one thing I would like to tell is just start as soon as possible. Like if you want to embark on this journey, don't put off your exam till the last date or your application till the last date. There's an error that is come or bound to happen. Like it is inevitable. So it's always better that you wrap up your exam 3 months before the applications or 2 months before the application, and then give good time to story forming or telling. Like a good story, like plus minus 10-20 marks can be really compensated with an amazing storytelling. So that is one thing I regret, not giving enough time to this journey, but I think things panned out, so it's okay. But yeah, having enough time for writing those apps is really, really important. So start as soon as possible. Don't wait for the next New Year's to start your prep. Never. Just start it now.